Good afternoon and welcome to today's event. My name is Sriraj Patel, Chair of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce and Vice President of Commercial Financial Services at RBC. Before we start, on behalf of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to acknowledge we're gathered today on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional land of the Ojibwe Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene nations, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. Reconciliation with our Indigenous communities is an important and ongoing journey the Chamber is committed to, and we challenge each and every one to join us on this journey. To learn more, please check out our Truth and Reconciliation Roadmap on our website at winnipeg-chamber.com/TRR. I'm super excited to be here virtually with all of you at our first luncheon of 2021. To kick off today's luncheon, I have a special quote I want to share. Leadership is not about titles, positions, or flowcharts. It's about one life influencing another. John C. Maxwell. Today's Chamber Luncheon is the power of leadership with Grewal, President and CEO of Manitoba Hydro. So, what is a great leader? A great leader unifies. They bring others together from different backgrounds, life experiences, and skills to work towards the same higher purpose and goals. A great leader empowers. They dare their team to look deep inside. They push others towards the uncomfortable and tap into new growth and full potential. The best leaders challenge us to go against the status quo and challenge popular perceptions for the betterment of our community. Our city is filled with iconic leaders, such as soon to retire Senator Murray Sinclair, who led our country's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Israel and Gail Asper, who gifted our country the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and Mark Chipman, who brought back our beloved Winnipeg Jets and built up True North Square. Our talk today with Jay Grewal will outline the power of effective leadership, both in your business and personal life. If you have any technical issues today, please contact any of our chamber staff by chat on the right-hand side. They are listed as WCC Help under the attendee list. Lastly, be sure to tell your colleagues, clients, and friends about our virtual luncheons. They are indeed a great way to connect, learn, and grow your business and your story. Before we welcome our keynote speaker, I wanted to thank our sponsors of today's event. Presenting sponsor, Manitoba Hydro. Title sponsor, CPA Manitoba. Networking sponsor, KPMG. And registration sponsor, Red River College. We appreciate your support. We also want to thank our chamber champions and chamber leaders. This year, we had 10 companies step up as champions and 3 step up as leaders. Thank you for your continued support of the Winnipeg Chamber. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day. When it comes to mental health, now more than ever, every action counts, especially today. On Bell Let's Talks Day, Bell, one of our chamber champions, will donate more towards mental health initiatives in Canada by contributing 5 cents for every applicable text, call, tweet, or TikTok video using hashtag Bell Let's Talk, social media video, and use of Bell Let's Talk Facebook frame or Snapchat filter. To learn more, visit bell.ca/Let's Talk. We encourage you to get on social media to join in on the conversation using the hashtag WCCBiz. Okay, let's get us started. I'm extremely excited to be introducing you to our keynote speaker today. As mentioned earlier, Jay Grewal is the first female CEO of Manitoba Hydro's history. Jay joined Manitoba Hydro as President and Chief Executive Officer in February 2019. Jay is a proven leader with over 26 years of leadership and corporate management experience, including at the executive levels in the utility, resource, and consulting sectors. Before joining Manitoba Hydro team, Jay was President CEO of Northwest Territories Power Corporation. Before then, Jay held senior executive roles with Capstone Mining Corp, Accenture Inc., BC Hydro, and CIBC World Markets. Jay holds a Bachelor of Arts honors from the University of British Columbia, as well as a master's degree in business administration finance from the Richard Ivey School of Business, University of Western Ontario. Welcome, Jay. First off, we would love to hear, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing as well as everybody else is. I mean, in this COVID world and respecting all the conditions under Code Red. So we not only keep ourselves safe, but we keep our communities safe.
Great, thank you. Well, in March 2020, we were originally scheduled to welcome you on the chamber stage for this luncheon. However, the first case of COVID came to Manitoba and we had to postpone. Can you walk me through last March? What were some of your first leadership decisions once COVID made its way to Manitoba?
Well, it feels like much longer ago than last March, to be honest, Shiraj. But you know, um, some the leadership decisions were twofold. One, we faced this pandemic, and we really did not know what we were facing, and you had to plan in an environment of uncertainty, and we all had to plan in that environment globally, and how it impacted our businesses, independent of how it impacts us personally, is different. So what I'd like to talk about is not what is common to other industries or businesses, but perhaps what's unique to Manitoba Hydro. So the first thing I want to remind everybody is Manitoba Hydro is an essential service. We keep the lights on and the gas flowing, and we're committed to reliability. And that commitment to reliability became even stronger when we shifted globally and within Canada and Manitoba to many more people working from home, going to school from home, all of those reasons. And it did show up in how our load shift. So what was unique to us? Well, first of all, we had to focus on the near term, and critical, given the nature of our work, was health and safety, not only of our employees, but also of our customers. And so what did we have to do differently? How did we have to shift and pivot? So from an employee's perspective, we have 5,400 employees within the Manitoba Hydro group of companies. And we perform, as I said, a very, very critical service. So first of all, we looked at those employees who could move to a virtual or remote model. And, at the time, when we started this work, we really did not have a model that was designed for this. Primarily, all of our employees came into the offices every day focused on serving our customers. So we had to actually equip ourselves within a couple of days to be able to ensure people have the equipment, the hardware, the software, the connectivity to work remotely. We went to 2/3 of our 5,400 employees working remotely within a matter of days.
Wow.
And given the nature of what we do and how critical it is that people have that connectivity, that they can be online to serve our customers, we had to stand up parallel and different environments to ensure if one environment crashed, because we'd never had this many people working remotely, in one of our environments. So we stood up 2 additional backup environments, and we took a beta one and made it live. And I'm very proud of our IT team because it has been seamless. Other than minor hiccups, it's been seamless. So that's what we've done on that front, including reinforcing our security because we are connected to national grids in Canada and in the US. Ensuring security as we move to this remote environment was absolutely critical also. That's for 2/3 of our employees, including someone like myself. You see me sitting here working from home. Then there's the other 1/3 of our employees who I have so much respect for. They are the ones who are day in, day out, when the pandemic is at its peak, out there ensuring reliability for our customers. So for those in the field, we had to make some significant changes. And the changes that were particular to Manitoba Hydro, we had to revisit over 1,000 safe work procedures to say, what do we do differently now, given COVID, given the pandemic? And examples of that, beyond the need for PPE and different and additional PPE, was we started dispatching our front line, our customer service officers, who you see in the field, maintaining the equipment, doing the line locates. We started to dispatch them from their home. We'd never done that before. Much more effective and efficient, and our employees preferred that. So we shifted that in our model. We had to increase the number of vehicles and rolling stock because we have, the 1/3 of our 5,400 employees moving around the province every day to serve our customers. And because you can only do one person at a time in vehicles early on, we needed additional rolling stock, additional vehicles. And how did we even redeploy the fleet that we had? Within our warehouses, totally had to fundamentally shift. As much as it's about those individuals on the front line, it's everybody behind them and ensuring logistically the goods, the PPE, all of the inventory that's needed to maintain reliability was there. So we shifted 2 different shifts, parallels, building in redundancy wherever we needed to ensure we continued as an essential service. From a customer perspective, new policies. We know and recognize these are challenging economic times. So we put in place a lot more support in our call contact centers, opportunities to defer payments, looking at penalties, as well as building out payment plans. We had to revisit our major projects. We were building Kiosk and the MMTP line. And Kiosk is a contained environment. And we had to figure out how do we continue to advance this critical green dependable energy project in Manitoba while still protecting the health of the employees there, as well as the communities in the north. And we built protocols upon protocols, working with public health. And when we did have an outbreak in the fall, we were very quickly able to quell and manage that. So lots and lots of changes on so many different fronts for our employees, for our customers, and more importantly, how we function in Manitoba. And now that we've figured out our near term, we're shifting to focus on the longer term, which is what will be our new normal, which we anticipate in the fall. But what I can assure you is it's not going to be how we operated in the past, because we're going to take what we learned, hear from our employees, hear from our customers, and move forward in a very different way.
Wow, amazing. The adaptability and agility you and the team exemplify to support our community is phenomenal. Thank you. The first year of any new CEO is probably challenging, but then you had to deal with one of the most significant storms in Manitoba history in October 2019, and now the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. What have those challenges this past year taught you about yourself and the team you have around you at Hydro?
Well, it's definitely been an interesting year. And I'm almost up to 2 years now. And it was a great question, because when I reflect back on the last year, as much as the question says, what has it taught me? The first thing is, I'm just so proud of the team and employees we have at Manitoba Hydro, who we've demonstrated, as you pointed to, when we had that October storm, how resilient we are, how focused and dedicated we are to serving our customers. And yes, it was a very large scale storm, but it was in our wheelhouse. It was in what we knew how to do on a much smaller scale. Yes, it took 1,000 employees. Yes, it took 2 weeks to get the last customer back on, but it's something that we knew how to do. It's just we mobilized very differently and had larger challenges. With COVID, it's uncharted waters. We did not know what we did not know. And you spoke to agility. And really, I think that is the biggest thing we've learned, is not only how to be agile, but the capacity we have to be agile at so many different levels. And we took it very, very seriously, given we are an essential service. So what did we fundamentally do? We stepped back and rethought, how do we do the work to serve our customers? And we didn't do it from a top down. We engaged our employees. We empowered them, because they came up with so many of the solutions and options to continue to serve our customers in this COVID environment. And empowering them was what we learned through that is, in this new energy landscape that we're stepping into, agility is critical. And now being able to empower our employees because they know our customers best was huge. I think the other thing we've been learning and focused on is, how do you lead in this environment? How do you support your employees in this environment where it's not like you're seeing them in the office, you're not able to have coffee with your colleague? How do you engage? Fundamental shifts in how leaders work. And given that we're choosing that our new normal will be different, we're actually putting more focus on how we do that differently in the future and how we provide the support and skills for our leaders to support our employees. The other thing that I really want to touch on is we've taken a great deal of pride in what we're doing. And over the last year, we've proven again that we're well positioned for how we need to move forward. We built some muscle, some capability that we hoped was there, and we've learned along the way. I would be remiss if I said it all went smoothly, but it went as smooth as we could, given that we were always looking around the corner. And when you don't even know where that corner is, the scenario planning, the risk analysis, contingency planning is critical. So, very proud of our employees, very proud of the team and what we've been able to achieve. The other thing I've learned this year is there's this perception that's often talked about in the media that Manitoba Hydro is being privatized. Let me categorically restate once again, Manitoba Hydro is not being privatized. And I hope that'll be the last time I need to have this conversation on that topic with anybody. I think that the last thing I want to touch on is through this, we really learned about how supportive and the value a board can bring when you're dealing in environments of uncertainty and change, and having that third party perspective, though they're close to it, they'd look at what we're proposing to do and provide some really good guidance and feedback. And, there's what we do organizationally, and then there's as leaders, the fatigue or challenges. And really appreciated the support of the board chair, who was always there as a sounding board for me when it's like, and who was always checking in to say, okay, is it too much now? Is it too heavy? How best can we support you as you support your team?
Wow, I love it. I admire tremendously the very employee and client-centric approach that Manitoba Hydro continues to take. It's phenomenal. How would you describe your leadership style, and what other leaders were your biggest influences?
So this is a question I get asked often, and the first time I was asked it was about a year ago, and I actually went to my team and said, how do you see my leadership style? We have conversations about leadership often, because I think it's very important as a leadership team that you have those conversations. But I would say this: my leadership style has evolved, and it evolves based on my experiences, and I continue to learn and grow. But I'd say there's two fundamental ways my leadership style is described. One is I'm strategic, and two, I'm transformational. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. So I am a proactive systems thinker. And what does that mean? It means I'm always looking out to look for the signals, to connect the dots, to be able to identify early on what is happening that could come back and impact our industry, our customers, and our employees. So it's that ties to the strategic piece. Some call it visionary, but in my mind, when that is what I'm consciously doing on an ongoing basis, because I try to spend 50% of my time on foresight, looking out, looking forward. The second thing is I've learned over the years, and starting in investment banking, which was a great place to start, I've learned to be a very disciplined thinker. And what is a disciplined thinker? One, you're always very clear on what assumptions you may explicitly or implicitly be making. But secondly, through that, as a disciplined thinker, it allows you to make minimum regret decisions. Particularly in environments of change, not making decisions is worse than, let me reframe that. The worst thing you can do is not make decisions when decisions need to be made. So you need to make decisions, but you may not have all of the information, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's the emerging energy landscape. So you need to be able to make minimum regret decisions versus not making any decisions at all. And the other thing is, I'm comfortable with uncertainty. You have to be, I believe future leaders all need to be comfortable with uncertainty, because so much is happening in this world and environment that is externally driven for us. I'm very inquisitive. I love to ask my team. I ask a lot of questions, but I'm asking questions to seek to understand. I'm always seeking to understand. And then finally, beyond what I described was about me and how I think and approach things, my leadership style is inclusive. We very much engaged our employees in how we develop Strategy 2040. Our employees and our customers at the center of what we do. And what I often say, and I truly believe this, is every single one of the employees in Manitoba Hydro has a role to play in serving our customers. The roles are just different, but everyone is important because we are an integrated utility. In terms of the question about influence of leaders, there isn't one particular leader. I've always looked at it from the perspective of, I learn from all leaders. Those that I feel are, for me, good or positive leaders, and also leaders that I don't feel are as strong or as good. Because what I do is, when I see something that I believe is strong, I look at and say, how do I bring that into my mental maps, into my framework of how I think? And then also when I see something that doesn't resonate for me, that is not, doesn't fit with the how I want to lead and how I want to show up, I also learn from that, because it identifies for me, and I step back and say, does that show up anywhere when I demonstrate leadership, when I engage with organizations, when I engage with our employees? But what is fundamental, I would say, about those that I have learned a lot from and those leaders that I do admire, they're values-based and principle-based. And that's something I very much try to hold myself accountable to. And they're authentic. They're real. And real is good.
For sure, definitely. Wow. So many insights and so many great lessons. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Since taking the helm at Manitoba Hydro, I know you've been working hard to develop a long-term strategy for the company to be successful in a world where the energy landscape is changing. You've previously referenced the trends of digitization, decarbonization, and decentralization, and the impacts they'll likely have on the new utility business in the future. Can you expand on what those trends might mean for Manitoba Hydro and your customers in the future?
Well, this is I wish we had like hours to talk about, because this is something we've been thinking about at Manitoba Hydro for the last year and a half. And Strategy 2040, which is what we're calling our long-term strategy, has really been built around how do we answer those questions? How do we address them? And we call it Strategy 2040 because we've taken a 20-year view. We needed to take that 20-year view because the shifts in the energy landscape related to the 3Ds you talked about will be happening over that time frame. What we don't know is what is that pace of change, because it's different in every single jurisdiction, in every single environment. So here's what I would say. I mean, let's talk about these 3Ds. The 3Ds are all about customers having choice, different choices than they have today. So the first one, digitization. How will that translate into customer choice? There'll be more services, more offerings that a customer will have. There will be different ways technology will be used to interact with the customer and create that customer experience. In terms of decentralization, what is decentralization all about? Manitoba Hydro is an integrated utility. We generate, transmit, and distribute energy. But on the electricity side, on the natural gas side, we distribute natural gas. What is it? You will have other choices for energy behind the meter, behind the point where Manitoba Hydro comes to. I am not talking privatization. I am talking new market entrants, whether that's solar, whether that's wind, whether that's geothermal, whether that's tidal, whether that's small modular reactors. It's all new sources of energy, which the integrated utility will not be providing. And that's a good thing because the demand for electricity will increase going forward. And I'll talk a little bit about that. The one I really want to focus on is decarbonization. Why? Because that is the most relevant for us in Canada and Manitoba today. But independent of that, globally, there are fundamental shifts happening around decarbonization that are driven by climate change. If you look at within Canada, the federal policy, Climate Strategy 2030, that the federal government recently announced, it is all focused around decarbonization. And within that decarbonization, two specific areas, the electrification of transportation, and secondly, green hydrogen. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about it because this fundamental policy shift is being driven federally, from my perspective, two agendas. One, reduce the GHG. But secondly, they're using, and there's over 20 billion in stimulus funding that's behind these policy initiatives to drive it forward. So they're trying to get the economy moving, but also concurrently achieve the GHG objective. So let's talk about the electrification of transportation. Most people tend to think electric vehicles, personal consumer use. The real push is on the larger scale transportation, whether it's public transit, such as buses, whether it is the wholesale movement of goods, fleets. The electrification of fleets is material and will fundamentally shift what the Trans-Canada Highway looks like. Needs to now be energized. So as those goods move, there are opportunities, just like at a gas station, there is the energy there and and how do you build that infrastructure? Because right now, electricity is provincial and it's regulated provincial, and you're moving from a provincial to a broader multi-provincial dynamic. And how will that work? And how do you plan for it? Green hydrogen. Within Climate Strategy 2030, there is a reference to hydrogen. And what is green hydrogen? That is hydrogen that is produced from green energy, i.e. water. Green hydrogen as a source of energy, you take green dependable energy, which we have, and use it to create another form of dependable green energy. And what is the difference between electricity and green hydrogen? Green hydrogen can be stored. Green hydrogen can move, and you don't need to build more transmission lines to move that energy. It is mobile and it can be used so much more broadly than electricity through transmission lines. And we have those types of opportunities to use the green dependable surplus energy we do not need domestically in Manitoba to ensure we pursue these types of opportunities so we get the maximum value for Manitobans from each surplus electron we're not using domestically. In terms of Manitoba Hydro and the role we can play in this, think about economic development. New industries, because we've got this green dependable energy that can be transformed into other sources. There's a relative cost of our energy. And carbon pricing. The feds came out with a carbon tax. They've now defined till 2030 by going up, it's going to be $170 per ton. I chair the Edison Electric Institute Transatlantic Committee, and the discussions we were having last week with leaders of different countries was all about how they're approaching carbon pricing and a carbon tax. It will not just be something that we see in Canada, but it'll be much more broadly integrated. The opportunity for Manitoba Hydro is to be the integrator, to be the one that ensures the reliability of this system as all of these puts and takes, whether there's a demand changes in its nature and type, but also how great that demand is, as well as the supply side shifts. And we will have the role, because at the end of the day, we have responsibility for reliability, and we will look to work with our customers to optimize that for the best interests of Manitobans, and to also ensure reliability and informed decisions for our customers. And it ties back to our mission statement in Strategy 2040, which is, we will help all Manitobans leverage their clean, dependable energy advantage while ensuring safe, clean, reliable energy at the lowest possible cost.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for elaborating on those three trends. How far along in your long-term strategy development are you? What have you been focusing on so far, and what changes have you already made?
So we could spend another couple hours on that one, but I'll keep that tight. You know, as it's been an interesting year, and as we focused on the pandemic, we did have to put pens down on the strategy for a while, but we picked it up back up as quickly as we could, and our focus shifted away from planning during the pandemic to planning for the future and the energy future for Manitoba. And so we've done actually a lot of work. We are very close. We're within weeks of finalizing Strategy 2040. But the amount of work and energy that we've done has been material. So we started, rightly so, through broad stakeholder engagement. Over 70 different groups, associations, government, PUB, our employees. Broadly, we needed to hear our Indigenous partners, Indigenous communities. What is it that you want, see, need from Manitoba Hydro? We're close to finalizing our strategy, but what I do want to point out is it's a living document. And the reason why it's living, one, we're taking that 20-year view, but secondly, we've shaped it around assumptions on how this energy landscape will evolve. So we always have to keep every year checking those assumptions relative to reality, but more importantly, trying to find those leading indicators that will inform us well in advance of what's happening and where we're going. Because there's so many factors, whether it's technology, whether it's climate change and federal policy, whether it's customer preferences, all play into how this energy landscape will evolve. So where we've settled on 5 key pillars that tie back to that mission statement. And so if you'll indulge me, I'll read you the 5, which is, firstly, provide safe, reliable energy that meets the evolving energy needs of Manitobans. Secondly, serve customers efficiently, responsively, and digitally. Third, help all Manitobans efficiently navigate the evolving energy landscape. Fourth, maximize the benefits of Manitoba's clean energy advantage. And finally, keep costs as low as possible while making the investments we need to serve Manitobans. And we frame these from our customers' perspective. And as we start to talk about Strategy 2040, more broadly, it will always be about our customer. This is a very robust strategy. There has been a lot of analysis, a lot of work, a lot of modeling, a lot of scenario planning that we've gone through. In addition to advancing Strategy 2040, early on, as we were building it out, it became apparent that the business model and how we operate at Manitoba Hydro needed to fundamentally shift for us to be effective in executing on Strategy 2040 and in this new evolving energy landscape. So what did we do? We actually stepped back and said, and we went back to basics to say, what are the core capabilities that we need as an organization to be successful that is different than what we have today? Such as agility will be critical. But we also needed to really look at how we operate as an integrated utility to ensure that at every touch point for a customer throughout this integrated utility delivery model, that the level of service they received and the quality of service was equal, did not matter where you were, so that we were raising that standard and bar. So we completely restructured it. We started at the executive level. We maintained the 7 VP portfolios from a number perspective, but we fundamentally shifted what we did in each portfolio. And two key new ones that are critical is a portfolio called Digital and Transformation, which focuses on technology and how we leverage that, which focuses on data and analytics, which will be critical in the bi-directional flow of energy. Then we've also created a VP, Customer Solutions and Experience, to align to the focus on our customer. So we've been cascading that through. We've been growing capability in asset management, work management, risk management, in a lot of those areas. At the same time, ensuring reliability, focusing on our core business, keeping the lights on and the gas flowing. And the last statement I'd like to make is, this is just the start of the multi-year journey for us to become the Manitoba Hydro utility of the future.
Amazing. Very exciting times. Energy costs are at a critical input to many of our member operations. I know many of our members will want to know what Manitoba Hydro is doing to ensure it continues to be one of the lowest cost suppliers of energy in Canada, particularly in light of some of the recent investments the utility has made in the new generation and transmission facilities.
Well, you know, it's a very, very good question. And first of all, what I want to say is it's in our mission statement. Lowest possible cost. So let's just step back and talk about what the current cost for energy is in Manitoba. Because we know affordable energy is critical to all of our customers, whether you're a residential customer or a large-scale industrial customer. Currently, Manitoba Hydro has some of the lowest energy costs in Canada. The only one we compete with at this time is Quebec, who have much larger hydro resources than we do. Going forward, we're going to have to invest in the grid for this bi-directional flow of energy. But we aren't the only ones. Every single utility has not built its infrastructure to handle this. So everybody's going to be investing. And I guess the real point I'm trying to make here is the cost of energy is relative. It's relative to if you were to be somewhere else, whether you're going to operate your plant there or whether you're going to live somewhere else. So we've made some very strategic investments as Manitobans in some key foundational assets in our generation and in our transmission. And we have energy that is green and dependable, and it will not attract carbon tax. That is a fundamental issue, I believe, if you are a large industrial customer. Because if your competition is operating and you're energy intensive in a fossil fuel based jurisdiction, the cost of your energy over the next 10 years will be going up. It will not be going up in Manitoba Hydro because we will not be attracting that carbon tax. So I think that is very, very critical. The other way we are going to focus on keeping costs as low as possible is something I alluded to earlier. Ensure we get the maximum value from every surplus electron that is not needed domestically. And that means we may use that surplus energy differently going forward. Whether it's green hydrogen, whether it's for the electrification of transportation, and new concepts such as pricing our energy based on the value versus the cost side of things for non-domestic use. So many different options for us, so many different ways to do it. For industrial customers and businesses, the whole focus on ESG, the investing in terms of environmental and social and governance, we fit that model. We support that. And again, because you see all investment funds shifting there. So the third piece I'd like to point to is we already have in place contracts and tools we put in place to optimize that non-domestic use of energy. And I'm talking about our export contracts, whether they are to the south, whether they are to the west. But last year, we generated almost $470 million in revenue from those sales. And as Kias comes online and it's on track, that volume will go up materially because we don't need the energy from Kias in the near term. And so that will materially increase. And if we did not, even at that 470 million, if we did not sell that energy in these other export markets, it would have meant rates would have gone up 20% higher than they are today. So we're very focused on how to optimize, keep the rates low in Manitoba and get the greatest value outside of Manitoba to keep those costs down, in addition to being very disciplined and efficient in how we deliver energy and how we make investment decisions through our asset management models and the like, and looking at always not let's do things the same way we have. How can we do it better? How can we continue to improve? So I believe we're well positioned to maximize that value and keep rates as low as possible, particularly relative to our peers. I'm very excited for us as Manitobans.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for fielding that question. As a high-profile female leader, many women look up to you as a mentor. What would be your number one piece of advice for women listening to us today? And what should they do to continue to grow and excel?
So I would not offer advice differently to women versus if you're not a female. But here's the advice I give to anybody who asks me and would like to hear my thoughts. First of all, take risks. Why take risks? Because then you're stepping outside your paradigm. You're stepping outside your comfort zone. And what happens? You will learn. And if you take a risk and it doesn't turn out quite the way you wanted, or it's you fail, and I don't like to use the word fail, you will learn. So taking risks is how you actually build your capability and experience and really challenge your thinking. And whether that's within an organization, stepping up to work in different areas on specific projects or initiatives, or whether that's working outside of your industry. But really, what are you doing by taking risks? You're exposing yourselves to new ways of thinking. But in addition to exposing yourselves to new ways of thinking, expose yourself to new models of leadership, which touches back on what I was speaking to earlier. You learn from others, you observe, you take away what resonates for you and what you think you want your leadership style to be. And you also go, okay, no, I don't want to be that leader. What am I consciously going to do different? And finally, and I think this is the most critical, where the first two I spoke to, support it. You have to be comfortable in leading in change. The pace of change keeps getting faster and faster and faster, and future leaders need to build the muscle, the capability to be effective in leading and guiding and making decisions in change. Agility.
Wow, powerful advice, Jay. Thank you so much. We recently launched our Reimagine Winnipeg campaign, which focuses on businesses who have embraced change and found new ways to reimagine their business. In Manitoba Hydro's 20-year strategic plan, you've begun to restructure your business model to put a clear focus on the customer. Restructuring a well-balanced company can be a daunting task, but you've taken it in stride. How did you reimagine and embrace change?
Well, by nature, when I talked about I'm strategic and transformational, I'm a change agent. I've learned that over the years. And so I embrace change, or some would say I look for change, but I don't look for change for the sake of change. I look for opportunities to improve. So firstly, what would I say? I touched on how we built Strategy 2040 around our customer. And so when you reimagine, you need to reimagine for what purpose? And for us, it's our customers, and who are our customers? It's Manitobans. And to do that, you need to understand the customer's expectations. You need to understand what's happening in your landscape, but more importantly, your customer's expectations. And you need to be very clear on what the value proposition is that you're offering. So, and many people, on today's call are well aware of the Apple journey. They didn't focus on the what and how, they chose to focus on the why. And when they chose to focus on the why, and they were very clear-minded and specific about it, they do not describe themselves back when they did this work as a computer company producing, desktops and laptops and the like. What did they describe their why as? To think differently, to challenge the status quo. As soon as you describe your why as that, you're implicitly embedding innovation in what you do. So what is Apple? By describing its why, it's an innovation company. So for us at Manitoba Hydros, we had to step back and say, we've been an integrated utility. We've been a monopoly. That environment is going to change and shift. So what is it that we will now be that will be relevant to our customers going forward? We had to step back and look at why. And our mission statement really is about that why. As much as we focus on the core business, we see key for us and critical for our customers, helping them understand and navigate that emerging energy landscape, because it will become very confusing for customers. There will be so many changes and so many shifts. How do they navigate this? So what are the things that we're doing? We step back outside of that traditional paradigm of an integrated utility. We started to think about our energy differently, domestic and surplus, versus automatically saying it's export. No, it's surplus. And where do we get the greatest value for each electron? We looked at our strengths and said, what are we good at? What are we not good at? How far do we pivot from that in this energy landscape to define how we can still add value? What are those risks and those opportunities? And we fundamentally shifted. So for example, the language around customers used to be ratepayers, which is very much a regulatory model. And now we've shifted to a view of customers and all Manitobans. All of a sudden, your lens is very different, the framework through which you look for solutions. We've also said we aren't going to be leading edge, because we can't take those risks. What we will do is very much be a fast follower. And our model for being a fast follower is start small, learn fast, and then scale based on what you've learned. So lots of things like that we're bringing in to shift our culture on this multi-year journey to become more agile. And what's been critical to this is engaging our employees, because it's proven the easier you make it for your customers to do their job, your employees to do their job in serving their customers, the more satisfied it will be, the greater the experience for our customers. So we've engaged our employees all the way through this, including the development of Strategy 2040, what I described earlier in terms of our business model shift. And that business model shift is not org structure. It is people, it is process, it is technology, it is data and analytics. And the last piece we're starting to move forward on is what is the culture that we need? Because we will not allow our culture to eat Strategy 2040 for breakfast.
Wow, amazing to hear about the journey that you all are on. How excited are you about the future for Manitoba Hydro? And what are the next steps as you build the company for this new energy future?
So, I said this earlier, we're building the Manitoba Hydro, the utility of the future. Being in this industry right now is fascinating. It's a complexity, it's a dynamic change. It's how you're having to learn to think differently and lead differently. For me, that excites me, but even more importantly, our employees are very excited about Strategy 2040. Why? Because they will have an opportunity to acquire new skills and new capabilities. We will make it easier for them to serve their customers. We will bring them new tools. We will help them serve our customers. And by doing that, it means we need to hear them. And our job is to support them. So our employees being engaged in this journey is huge. This evolving energy landscape and the zero carbon energy that we have and the opportunity to get the maximum value from that, we take that responsibility very, very seriously. The opportunities for economic growth, the opportunities to support GHG reduction and getting that maximum value. But even more importantly than all of this is to ensure that the assets that Manitoba Hydro has, that Manitobans have invested in, will be there in that energy landscape, adding value day in, day out, and we're ensuring reliability. So I'm very excited about this. We've only started this multi-year journey. I would say that we've done the easy part. The hard part is now executing on it. But I'm so confident with our team and the amazing employees we have. I have no doubt at all. No doubt at all.
Excellent. I could do this all day. That is all the time we have for today's Fireside Chat. Thank you so much for joining us for our discussion today, Jay. I truly believe our members will benefit from your talk today, and we are so grateful to have had you here with us today.